and you see the Worgen Infiltrator, perhaps suggesting this is a face hunter from Numberguy. Yeah, as you say, I mean, the Zoo is really difficult because when you're running things like Implosion in Zoo, which is pretty much a standard at this point, Hunter is the only matchup where you want to roll low on your Implosion, because you just know when you roll 4, Unleash the Hounds is coming next. You just know that's what happens. But we're seeing a pretty strong start here from Jab. He gets the Knife Juggler out on turn 2. Is able to kill that Leper Gnome. Would have been hoping to kill that Worgen Infiltrator, but certainly isn't going to sniff at being able to take something off the board. And actually, this is the instance where Zoo can actually beat Face Hunter, getting those good value minions, particularly Knife Juggler. Knife Juggler absolutely crucial in this matchup because there are a lot of 1 health minions.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of times in this matchup, you will see the Warlock take control early on. But when it really comes down to when you're starting to run low on cards, when both players have exhausted it, the Hunter's just going to come out in sort of the mid-game area, just because the Warlock's going to have to tap for new cards, and the Hunter is going to be weaving in his hero power turn after turn. So when both hero powers are damaging the Warlock, and you're in a scenario where you're playing 2 aggressive decks, the player that's being damaged every turn by both hero powers is usually going to be the one that loses that race. So it's really tough, and this is a really bad hand for Jab. He's just so clogged. He's got the Mal'Ganis early on, which could be a factor later on, but I don't even know if this game will get to a turn 9.
No, I mean, we can see from Jab's hand here, this is definitely not a traditional Zoo ladder deck. This is kind of, I guess, perhaps a hyper-aggressive Demon Lock. It's, again, a completely different archetype from anything we've seen in a lot of tournaments. The Bane of Doom there, the Doctor Boom, the Mal'Ganis, so there is a lot going on here. He's goes straight for the Doom Guard, and while he's probably quite lucky that Mortal Coil disappearing, but does lose his Doctor Boom. Thought it's difficult to know what he's going to go for here. I thought we might have seen the Bane of Doom to try and get some better board presence than use the Doom Guard. This suggests maybe he's not running Void Callers if he's just able to play the Doom Guard out straight away. Often that's a card you'll wait and activate a Void Caller for.
Yeah, I mean, chances are he probably is playing Void Callers. He just can't afford to be that slow.
That's true.
And you see there, this is one of the only matchups where the Hunter sort of needs to play, Face Hunter sort of needs to play a little bit more of a board control oriented style. You notice the turn before, instead of hitting Face with his Eagle Horn Bow, which, I mean, most of the time you're playing Face Hunter, you can block out your whole monitor aside from the face, and then just like blindly move your cursor until it mouse is over the face and hit it. That's usually the way that you play it, but you can't really leave a board for Zoo because they have so many ways to buff up their board. Cards like Power Overwhelming, Abusive Sergeant, Defender of Argus. You don't want to give them any good targets for that. So even though you're playing Face Hunter and you're overwhelming Caveman Urge, that's tough right there. Yeah.
And it's difficult to see, actually. That's actually really bad for Numberguy. The double kill command without the beast to be able to activate it. A 7/5 Doom Guard staring him down. I was thinking, are we going to see that Doom Guard on the Mad Scientist? We did see it. Haven't quite seen what the secret is yet, but it's likely to be an explosive trap. It may be one snake trap. If it's a snake trap, that's a really, really bad time for Numberguy.
There are some Face Hunters that do tech in Freezing Trap. In the Pro League last a couple days ago, I forgot which player it was, but they actually teched in a Freezing Trap. But judging by this move, it's definitely explosive because there's no way that he would make that move without it being explosive.
Yeah,
which is good.
I was wondering if we were going to see him tank the 9 damaged face there to clear that Mal'Ganis, but clearly it is an explosive trap because he's leaving it at 1 health. And this puts Jab in an interesting position here. He is going to take 2 damage. He can put his opponent down to 7.
2 Mal'Ganis?
And he can even put his opponent down to 2 health with the second Doom Guard. And that looks like what he's going to go for.
And what turned out to be a poor hand was made quite a bit better by the Bane of Doom.
Well,
and I don't think there's any way out of this. Yeah, that's going to be first game going over to Jab with the nice Bane of Doom.
Well, there you go. Bane of Doom, since it's been, I guess, buffed, is one of the first times I think since release the Blizzard has ever buffed.
And against Face Hunter in general, because it just blocks so much damage usually. A lot of times they'll have to use a silence on it, and that means that silence isn't going to be there for later turns, and it also means that cheap owl that they usually use to burst you down later on is not going to be there. And if they kill with like a kill command, that's burn they're not using on your face. And also they still have to get through that second, the sludge that comes out, which is usually really hard for Face Hunter because they have to use a bow charge or a wolf rider that they have on board. It's really tough. So that card, Sludge Butcher, usually trades 2, sometimes even 3 for 1 against Face Hunter.
Having said that, in terms of the overall matchup, it may well be that Jab is, and you see Quick Shot in there for Jab, which is one of the new cards from BlackRock Mountain. It may well be that in the grand scheme of the matchup, Jab realizes that Face Hunter is really bad against the rest of his decks. So I guess maybe wants to give Numberguy the Face Hunter win as quickly as possible so he can then beat his Mage and his Warlock. And that's the kind of, we talked about the tactics involved in Conquest. That's the kind of thing you've got to think about. And triggering the Snake Trap here for Jab into the, for Numberguy into the Unleash the Hounds is pretty good as well, getting a lot of presence on board. He's going to just clear here though.
It's usually a pretty smart idea to trade in Hunter vs Hunter matchups, just because second Unleash could be devastating if either of them have it, which is one of the best cards in the mirror matchup. So I like the fact that he decided to trade there. Now he did get King Crush, so that's a pretty exciting card, and it doesn't usually come into effect in Hunter vs Hunter, but it actually I've seen King Crush when it does come out. It's usually a game ender because by turn 9 Hunter vs Hunter, you usually have your opponent sub 10 health. It's usually coming down to those last couple cards, and King Crush can be what wins. So we'll have to see if that's going to be the case.
Well, the curve is getting pretty perfect here for Jab. Does have the turn 5 Valkyr, turn 6 Savannah, and pretty much any other matchup, that's pretty much an awful for mid-range Hunter, right? If you compare it to those two.
Yeah, but it's also very slow, and sometimes you can't afford to have slow cards against Face Hunter. So next turn, if he spends his whole turn laying Savannah Highmane, that's a lot of damage he's going to take on the return, because there's a possibility of double Arcane Golem coming out, which would mean it would put him out with that bow charge 8 health, and that's if he doesn't come across the rest of the board, and he's dealing with the snakes on the board. He has no AoE to be able to deal with that. If he goes with the Highmane, then there's going to be a lot of damage staring him in the face. But he doesn't really have much of a choice. Unless he wants to take out a 1-1 with Quick Shot. Yikes.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult. He's just going to go ahead and slam the Savannah here and hope he can overwhelm the board. But yeah, this is pretty difficult, and you've got to be worried here if you Jab of what's sitting in the hand of Numberguy. Is it something you can use with Kill Command? Is it these double Arcane Golems? Is it something like Leroy? There could well be a lot of damage coming in, and that's actually a lot of damage on the board. I mean, there's 9 damage just represented in what Jab can see, so there doesn't actually have to be a huge amount. Even if it was just a Leroy and an Arcane Golem, that could be pretty nasty. But the trade there, probably a smart move from his part.
Yeah, I don't know though. In that situation, I'd like to try and make it a race. Try and say, hey, that 1 damage is probably going to be inconsequential, so I'm just going to hit your face and hope I draw into like a second kill command next turn and be able to make like a 20 damage turn. It's really tough. He does have Houndmaster next turn, so we can turn that Highmane into a little bit of a wall, but it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, we're just going to see the Arcane Golem and the Wolf Rider come out here, and this could well just be Numberguy making it a race, like you said. He's going to go all in here, and this feels like a pretty safe strategy, I think. So much is actually lethal in the hand, even if Jab is able to clear everything on board, and it would take probably quite a bit for that to happen. But something like a Houndmaster on a Savannah Highmane could actually wreck his day here.
Yeah. He just doesn't have enough damage to do anything here, so he's got to clear as much of the board as possible. So I like Knife Juggler, Houndmaster, Quickshot here.
Yep.
Knife Juggler, and then Houndmaster, and then Quickshot the Arcane Golem, and try and trade off as much as possible. That way he can set up a huge damage next turn, because he'll have, 6 plus 8, 14, 18. He'll have 27 damage, I think, next turn if none of his board is killed. so he'll be able to kill him quite easily the following turn. It all depends on if Numberguy can get through this wall. It's gonna be tough. I mean, he has to draw into
A second owl, I guess.
a second owl.
And that's not it. That's a leper gnome. So it looks like Jeb
Wow.
might actually be able to beat the face hunter here with mid-range. That Houndmaster just absolutely perfect what he needed to put up that wall of taunt. The early silence coming down the sludge belcher. Like you said, I always so often in face hunter use to push through at that crucial lethal turn or to push through to get damage on at the absolute necessary point. But sludge belcher is just such a big target for silence because of the second taunt coming out of it, even if you can get through it, that he had to use it then. And now he's staring down a 8-7 at Savannah High Main, and it's pretty hard to see how you come back from that. And he doesn't even know that King Crush is waiting in hand to finish him.
Yeah, he's got to go for the style points and finish the game with King Crush. He could actually finish it with... Oh no. Oh yeah, he could finish it with Kill Command. So, I mean, there's lethal staring at him on board. He doesn't even have to use either of the cards in his hand, but it looks like Numberguy is going to stay in, maybe try and get a little bit of... Actually, it doesn't really matter. There you go. He concedes.
Yeah, that's a shame. We didn't get to see the King Crush, but the King Crush would have been enough there, and I like to think that Jab would have used the King Crush.
But at the same time, they're not really high impact cards. They don't have an immediate impact on the board. Cards like Azure Drake and Ancient of Lore, yeah, they draw you cards, but what's on the board right now is still going to be on the board next turn if you're playing one of those cards. So you're sort of investing into the future of the game instead of dealing with what the hunter is doing right now. And by the time you get to the point where you can deal with what they have right now, it's already too late, and your health total's too low. All they need is a little bit of burn, and they don't have those walls like Druids used to build when Face Hunter was super popular on the ladder. Ramp Druid was like the go-to deck for most players. You start on turn 4 with Ascension, turn 5 Druid of the Claw or Sludge Belcher, turn 6 you coin into your Ancient of War. The days of that are sort of gone now. Sunwalker, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a period when like that heavy taunt druid, not even just ramp druid, but it was a taunt specific druid with things like Sunwalker was a little bit popular. But like you say, even if you're able to innervate an Azure Drake on turn 3, for example, your opponent has Animal Companion, and 2 out of 3 Animal Companions trade with an Azure Drake. And there's one of them there, Misha. So Azure Drake is a really, really bad card in this matchup. The Druid of the Claw is slightly better, admittedly, but it's really awkward to innervate into that and waste a mana. He does have the Keeper of the Grove. I guess he can maybe silence the taunt, or even just kill the Mad Scientist is probably what it would go for.
Yeah, this is a rough situation. Most of the time you want that Keeper of the Grove to come out really early, like turn 1 or 2, coin innervate Keeper of the Grove, so that way you can deal with the first threat and have that Keeper there, which is going to trade usually 3 for 1. It gives you time to play your ramp cards, but he has it a little bit late, and silencing the Mad Scientist is a really big deal, just because you won't have to worry about that explosive trap later on. You can get to the point where you can actually play Force of Nature Savage Roar, because explosive trap prevents you from doing that, and it looks like he's not even going to get to that point because he's already at 14 health on turn 4, turn 5, so he has Druid of the Claw to sort of stop some of the bleeding, but he gets to that Druid of the Claw so easy.
Well, I guess you could innervate Ancient of Lore to heal. That doesn't feel good.
No, because you know that the amount that you're healing, you're using the innervate and you're healing, but he has what, more than 10 damage staring at you on the board. So the 5 heal that you're doing is just going to be negated plus some the following turn.
And this, again, going back to the talk of psychology, and obviously you having to get these different wins. If you're Jab right now, you're not even feeling too bad about this matchup, because you're like, yeah, this is a really tough matchup for me. Of course, I'm not doing too well, and okay, fine. Even if his face hunter gets a win, I still only have to get 1 win with this druid against his other 2 decks. So, not a bad position for Jab to be in. It's certainly he is in pole position right now, but Numberguy obviously needs to get this win. His back is up against the wall. And we're going to see him use the second Glaive Zuka to get the buff on the Mad Scientist, which, I don't know, he looked a little bit unhappy with that. I guess he wanted it on the Abusive Sergeant to trade, because the Mad Scientist doesn't die to the Hero Power or a Wrath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's another awkward turn for Jab here.
Yeah, this would normally be the stabilization point. But Jab, I don't know. He's got decent cards to stabilize. He can deal with the board, and he has Ancient of Lore as a heal, as sort of an emergency. So the fact that Numberguy's hand was actually clogged with weapons, and he wasn't really able to develop his board in that situation, really hurt him because he was forced to trade most of his board into that Druid of the Claw to clear it off, and he wasn't able to keep on the pressure.
That's a terrible draw as well. He's going to play the Eagle Horn Bow and just burn. That's 2 Glaive Zuka charges he's actually wasted, which is, it's a decent amount of direct damage. The Worgen Infiltrator very, very late. Actually, not a terrible position for Ancient of Lore here. I think you do have to heal, but Druid of the Claw off the top is pretty perfect. And actually, Numberguy, even though he's at 26 health against 10, unless he draws into the right cards here, he's going to need a Beast, he's going to need Kill Command, he's going to need his Wolf Riders, and he's going to have to sack them into this Druid of the Claw. This actually could turn around really, really quickly here.
Yeah. I actually like the Ancient of Lore here because getting the heal out on a turn where you know you're safer is probably the better choice, because you can get the heal plus the body on the board on a turn where you know you're not going to die, and then Druid of the Claw the following turn to sort of, put the nail in the coffin and close out the game. But I guess I forgot that there was a trap there, so proccing the trap and then playing your board, probably a better choice in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty good as well. And it is kind of similar to what you were saying about the healing with the Ancient Lords, being able to proc the trap in a turn where you know it's not going to kill you. That's pretty crucial as well, because it means that you can, let's say, survive another turn. He's going to have to use the weapon charge to kill off that Druid of the Claw, but does put his opponent to 7 health, so there's actually lethal sitting on board here, but we're just going to see pretty much an instant health here. Swipe coming into hand as well. Oh, the second Worgen Infiltrator. That is the perfect target for Swipe in this deck, and I think we'll just see a Swipe face next turn, potentially, and then probably a Loatheb to prevent things like Kill Command.
Yeah. Wow, this is going to be actually really close. It's going to be on a couple draws for Numberguy to win the game. I mean, next turn, if he draws
and a Belcher.
Oh, that is so rough.
So yeah, Belcher Swipe face here, I think, feels like a pretty good turn. Take out everything that Numberguy has.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I don't know if he even runs a second Eagle Horn Bow. We've already seen 3 of his weapons, so it isn't really gonna draw into a weapon. Haven't seen the Silence though, so that could help him out with the Sludge Belcher. But yeah, this is really rough here.
Well, it's gonna have to be over 2 or 3 turns, and this turn, if he swipes face and plays Belcher, which seems to be the correct play, he's gonna put him down to 12 health with 8 damage sitting on board. So that's I guess just a second swipe for lethal, Savage Roar for lethal, Force of Nature for lethal. There'd be a lot of opportunities, and since Numberguy has an empty hand, he'd be forced to do damage over 2 turns, because if he draws the Owl next turn, he's still not going to have lethal. So it's looking pretty rough for Numberguy when he sees this swipe come out.
It's not going to be good at all. Jab's thinking long and hard about this. I guess he's trying to think whether or not he wants to play that Loatheb and lock out things like Kill Command and Unleash. But the Belcher, he's not going to use the swipe.
Oh.
Wow. Face, that is...
I guess he realizes that regardless of what he draws next turn, there's no draw that he could get that would kill him. Even if he draws Silence. Actually, no, if he did draw Silence, that would have been lethal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really risky. Really risky.
I don't like that. I don't like that play at all, honestly. I just say, I think that's, that the Owl is in the deck, you've seen it already, and you're in a pretty rough position here, actually. I think you probably have to proc the Haunted Creeper and now swipe face. Obviously, that does give you a better value swipe than you had last turn, but I'm really not sure I'm a fan of that. I think that's...
Who cares about value right now? You care about your life. You care about your life.
Exactly.
When you want to put yourself in a situation where your opponent can't draw into lethal, and swiping face in that situation. Oh well, actually, no, that's not true, because the following turn, Hero Power Kill Command would have killed him as well, because he was at 5 health. So I guess it's the same amount of risk. It's putting him on drawing a Silence or putting him on drawing a Kill Command. Which one are you more afraid of in that situation? So either way, I guess, there is a way that he could have died the following turn. So I guess it's not that risky now that I think about it, because he was at 5 health.
And this is kind of an awkward spot here because he does. I guess part of him maybe wants to play another 5-drop, but also he kind of wants to get that armor as well to get himself a little bit of healing. But he's actually just going to go for the Loatheb, and that does lock out the kill command. So it's going to be. I don't think there's actually any outs here for Numberguy locking out the kill command with the Loatheb, and this is going to be a super quick victory for Jab. 3-0 against the Face Hunter in some pretty unfavored matchups for Jab. That's